What's up, guys? My name is Mitchell here with Vega or Vegatron, and today we're going to talk about the Cyrusher Ranger versus the Cyrusher Kommoda. Now, these are two great bikes from Cyrusher, but they're very different. They've got a lot of different things to offer from one another. So we're going to take a look at what are some of the similarities and differences, and which one would I actually recommend over the other. Let's talk about it. Now, on the surface, comparing these bikes might seem a little bit silly. The Cyrusher Ranger is significantly larger than the Kommoda, and it's a step over, whereas the Kommoda is a step through. But what I think is interesting about these bikes is that they both have 750 watt motors. They've also both got those 4-inch fat tires, meaning they're made for similar kinds of riding. But one is $900 more expensive than the other. So what makes the Cyrusher Ranger so different? Do I actually recommend it over the Kommoda? Now, having test ridden both of these bikes, I do have to say they're both speedy and they both have lots of power. I was impressed and satisfied with both bikes, but if we're talking about which one is better, the Ranger is just a pinch above the Cyrusher Kommoda. The acceleration makes it just a teeny bit zippier, but overall they do feel pretty comparable. Where I think these bikes really start to differ and stand out from each other is how they feel to ride. Now, the Cyrusher Ranger definitely has better rear suspension, and I would even say the front suspension feels a pinch better than the Kommoda. This bike just feels smoother to actually ride. But the Kommoda, although the suspension maybe isn't as good as the Ranger, is definitely more nimble and easy to control than this Ranger. It's a smaller bike, and where these tires are only 20 inches instead of those 26-inch tires on the Ranger, you definitely feel like you have more control and you can make sharper turns and stop on a dime on this bike. And I think I've mentioned this before on the channel, but the Cyrusher Kommoda is probably our top selling bike for women right now. And that's for a reason. This bike is just easier for most women to control because it's not quite as awkward and as huge as something like a Cyrusher Ranger. Typically, when I've seen people checking out the Ranger, it is bigger dudes that have a little bit more mass that they can kind of throw this bike around with. Where it's a step over too, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody that's smaller framed. Now, if I'm really forced to pick between these bikes and which riding experience I like more, I will say for me personally, I like the Ranger, but just a pinch more than the Cyrusher Kommoda. I don't mind that it's a bigger bike. I like the way that it looks. It reminds me a little bit of a motorcycle. I think it looks sharp, it looks masculine, and I like that extra bit of acceleration on the Ranger. But I do have to say that the Cyrusher Kommoda definitely doesn't disappoint me. And for the $900 difference, just being completely honest with you, if I didn't have a big amount of money to pick between these bikes and I was trying to, kind of shop on a budget, I think I would recommend that Cyrusher Kommoda. If I've got thousands of dollars and I'm just picking which one I'm going to enjoy more, I'm going to pick the Ranger. I don't know if it's $900 better than that Cyrusher Kommoda, but ultimately, I think you're going to be impressed with either bike that you pick. The riding experience is very similar. It's a little bit easier to control that Kommoda, but the Ranger is just a pinch more powerful. Before you go, check out these Tannis liners. I'm going to link them in the description. These are actually a great way to stop you from ever getting flats. It's a thick foam liner that you put over your tube inside of your tire, and the little weeds, those sticker weeds, they can't penetrate it. So this is actually my personal favorite product that we sell in the shop. So click that link and you can check them out.